Execute this departure agreement, or I'll burn everything you've built to ash. She didn't raise her voice when she said it. Didn't need to. We were alone in the inventory room, fluorescent strips humming their mechanical song overhead, and her finger hovered over a phone contact labeled simply Legal Network. That's what made it real. Not anger, not volume, just the absolute certainty in her tone that she controlled my future. And with one call, she could erase 3 years of work, like wiping condensation off glass. The papers sat between us on the metal sorting rack, official letterhead, dense paragraphs of corporate language. My voluntary resignation, effective immediately. Acknowledgement of unspecified performance failures. Non-compete agreement stretching 2 full years. Release of all claims. Confidentiality, binding me to silence about everything I'd witnessed, everything I knew, everything that had brought us to this moment. You're thinking about fighting this, she said, watching my face. Don't. You won't win. You'll just make it worse for yourself. Here's what scared me most. She wasn't wrong. Not about her power, anyway. She demonstrated that thoroughly over the past 6 months, and especially over the past 8 weeks, when I'd started noticing the numbers didn't add up and made the catastrophic mistake of asking why. Before we go any further, thank you for being here and listening to what happened. If this story resonates with you, or if you've ever felt powerless in a situation where someone held all the cards, leave a comment below. Subscribe if you want to hear how this unfolds, because what happened next changed everything. Your support means more than you know. My name is Sutton, 28 years old when this happened, though I felt decades older by the time it ended. People who knew me before would have described me as careful, methodical, the kind of person who triple-checks numbers and keeps backup files of backup files, because you never know when you'll need proof of something everyone else has forgotten. My apartment reflected that. Bills organized by due date, receipts filed monthly, books alphabetized not because I was obsessive, but because I liked knowing where things belonged. That personality trait, that compulsive need for order and documentation, that's what saved me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 years earlier, I'd started as assistant manager at a regional retail location. Not glamorous work. Inventory management, staff scheduling, customer issues, vendor relations. The kind of job where success meant nothing went wrong, and nobody noticed you were the reason everything functioned smoothly. I was good at it, though. Really good. Within 8 months, I'd reorganized our supplier contracts, cutting costs by 17% without reducing quality. Developed a scheduling system that reduced overtime expenses while improving employee satisfaction. Implemented inventory tracking procedures that virtually eliminated shrinkage. The previous manager retired, and I stepped into the role naturally. Corporate approved it without hesitation. For 2 years, our location led the region in every metric that mattered: profitability, customer retention, staff stability. Other managers asked me for advice. District leadership used our methods as training examples. Then Faye arrived. Regional supervisor position, my direct boss. Transferred from another division where she'd apparently worked miracles, improving underperforming locations. The district manager introduced her during a video call, praising her innovative approaches and proven track record. She smiled warmly, said all the right things about collaboration and supporting location managers, about learning from people who understood their territories. First month felt normal. She observed operations, asked questions, took notes, complimented my systems, said she was impressed by how efficiently we ran things. I appreciated that she didn't immediately try to change everything like some new supervisors do. Thought maybe we'd work well together. Second month, she asked me to compile detailed reports on everything I'd implemented. Every process change, every cost-saving measure, every scheduling innovation. Wanted to understand my thinking, she said, so she could help me refine these approaches and potentially roll them out across other locations. I spent hours documenting everything: methodology, results, implementation challenges, solutions I'd discovered. Handed her a comprehensive guide that represented 3 years of learning and improvement. 3 weeks later, corporate sent out a regional announcement. New efficiency initiatives developed by our regional supervisor. Projected savings across all locations. Glowing praise for her leadership vision. Every single initiative was mine. Every process I'd developed. Every improvement I'd fought for. presented as her original innovation. I sat staring at that email for 20 minutes, reading it again and again, trying to understand how this had happened. Tried to convince myself it was a miscommunication. Maybe she'd submitted my work with proper credit, and someone in corporate communications had simplified the message. Maybe she'd explain when I asked. "This is how leadership functions," she said. When I finally gathered courage to mention it, we were in the back room, alone. Her smile never wavered. "You develop ideas. I evaluate them, refine them, present them to corporate. That's the chain of command. Your job is execution. Mine is strategy. If you have a problem with that structure, perhaps you're not ready for the responsibilities you've been given." The way she said it, so reasonable, so calm, made me feel like I was being petty for wanting recognition, like I didn't understand how businesses operated, like I was being childish. I said nothing, let it go, told myself it didn't matter who got credit, as long as the work was solid. That was my first mistake. Month 4, she asked for my analysis of seasonal inventory patterns. I'd spent 2 years tracking purchasing trends, identifying exactly when to increase stock for specific product categories, when to reduce. Showed her my spreadsheets, my projections, my recommended ordering schedule. She nodded, thanked me, said she'd review it with corporate. Next quarterly meeting, she presented her revolutionary seasonal forecasting model that would transform regional inventory management. Word for word, my analysis. Number for number, my projections. Corporate gave her a bonus. I got a standard cost of living raise. Month 5, she started requesting my access codes. Needed to review systems directly, she said. Needed to audit processes to ensure compliance. I gave them to her because refusing would have seemed suspicious. Like I had something to hide. That's when the discrepancies started. Small at first. A few items marked as damaged that I remembered selling. Returned merchandise logged but missing from the return rack. Nothing dramatic enough to investigate, but enough to make me double-check my own records, wondering if I'd made errors. Then larger gaps appeared. An entire shipment marked as delivery shortage, but I'd personally signed for the complete order and shelved most of it myself. High-value items disappearing from inventory with notes indicating transfer to other locations. Except when I casually mentioned these transfers to other managers, they had no record of receiving anything. I started keeping separate counts, not because I suspected anything specific yet, just because the numbers bothered me, and I needed to understand where my tracking was failing. Every evening after close, I'd do a quick audit of high-value items, count them physically, compare against the system, note discrepancies in a personal file. Week after week, the gap widened. Someone was manipulating inventory records, marking sold merchandise as unsellable, recording transfers that never happened, logging damages and shortages that didn't exist. Conservative estimate, based on my personal counts versus official records, put the theft around $43,000 over 8 weeks. $43,000 worth of merchandise sold, with the money disappearing before it reached corporate accounting. Only 3 people had access to make those kinds of system changes. Me, the assistant manager, and Faye. I knew it wasn't me. The assistant manager was new, barely trained, didn't have the knowledge to execute this kind of sophisticated theft, which left Faye, my supervisor, the person corporate trusted implicitly, the person everyone praised for her innovative leadership. I should have gone straight to corporate security, should have compiled my evidence and submitted it anonymously to their fraud division, should have protected myself first, then exposed what I'd discovered. Instead, I made my second mistake. I confronted her directly. "We need to talk about some inventory irregularities," I said. Friday afternoon, her scheduled visit to our location. I'd prepared a folder with sample discrepancies. Thought maybe there was an explanation. Thought maybe she'd made errors and would want to correct them. Thought we could resolve this professionally. She looked at the folder without opening it. "What irregularities?" "Items marked as damaged or transferred that I have documentation showing were sold. The revenue isn't appearing in our reports. I've been tracking it for 2 months now, and the pattern is consistent. We're missing significant income, and I can't account for where it's going." Silence. She studied my face for a long moment. "You're tracking inventory outside official systems?" "I'm keeping personal counts to ensure accuracy. That's part of my job. Your job is to manage this location according to corporate procedures. not to create shadow accounting systems because you don't trust official processes. Her voice stayed level, pleasant, even. You're seeing problems that don't exist, probably because you're tracking things incorrectly. Focus on your actual responsibilities. Let me worry about regional accounting. But the discrepancies there are no discrepancies. There are only your personal counts, which apparently don't match trained corporate systems. That should tell you something about the accuracy of your methods, don't you think? She left. I stood there holding my folder, feeling stupid and small, wondering if maybe she was right. Maybe I'd been tracking things wrong. Maybe I'd misunderstood how the systems worked. Except the numbers didn't lie, and I knew how to count. 2 days later, I requested a meeting with the district manager, sent a carefully worded email indicating I had concerns about financial irregularities that warranted review. Didn't name Faye. Didn't make accusations. Just asked for an audit to ensure everything was compliant. The district manager's assistant called back within 90 minutes. Your meeting request has been declined. Any concerns about location operations should be addressed with your direct supervisor. She'll handle whatever issues you're experiencing. That's when understanding hit. They were connected. Faye and the district manager. Had to be. This wasn't her first location. This was her system. She'd done this before. Somewhere else. Probably multiple. Somewhere else's. She'd refined this method. Knew exactly how to skim money without triggering automated alerts. Knew exactly who to cultivate relationships with to ensure questions never reached people who might actually investigate. And I just painted a target on myself by asking those questions. 3 days later, Thursday evening, she texted me, "Stay after closing. We need to discuss your concerns." Everyone else left at 9. She arrived at 9:15, found me in the back, doing end-of-day counts like always. She locked the door behind her. That's what I remember most clearly. The deliberate sound of the lock engaging. "Execute this departure agreement, or I'll burn everything you've built to ash." That's where we started. That's where I understood exactly how much danger I was in. She pulled papers from her bag, set them on the sorting rack. The departure agreement, 23 pages of dense legal language designed to erase me from this company and prevent me from working anywhere that might compete with them. Page 8, Section 4, she said. Acknowledgement of performance failures. You'll note it's deliberately vague. Could mean anything, but it's enough to tank any future job application if a background check calls for references. Page 12, Section 9, Non-compete clause, 2 years. Enforceable across the entire retail sector in this state. Page 17, Section 13. Complete release of claims. You can't sue us, can't file complaints, can't report anything to any regulatory agency. And page 20, Section 16. Confidentiality. You don't talk about anything related to your employment here. Not to former colleagues, not to future employers, not to anyone. Violation triggers financial penalties you definitely can't afford. She'd done this before. You could hear it in how she explained each section. This wasn't her first time forcing someone out who'd ask inconvenient questions. "You're insane if you think I'm signing this." "Am I?" She held up her phone. "One call. That's all it takes. My attorney already has a draft complaint ready. Theft, fraud, embezzlement. All the financial discrepancies you've been tracking. Your access codes were used to make those changes. Your login. Your authentication. How do you prove you didn't make them? You've been keeping secret records. By your own admission. Secret tracking systems. That's not the behavior of an innocent employee. That's the behavior of someone hiding something." My hands went numb. "You're framing me for your theft. I'm protecting this company from an employee who's been stealing and is now trying to deflect blame. That's how this will look. That's how this will play. Unless you sign this agreement, take your voluntary resignation, and walk away quietly. Then this all goes away. No complaints filed. No investigation. No criminal charges. You just find other work, somewhere outside retail, and we never speak of this again. You've been stealing from this company for months. Prove it. With what evidence? Your personal counts that contradict official systems? Systems you had full access to modify? You'll look like exactly what I'll say you are. A thief who got caught and is desperately trying to blame someone else." The room felt smaller suddenly, harder to breathe, because she was right about one thing: the access codes, my login, every change she'd made using my credentials. She'd been setting this up for months. Every time I'd given her my access codes, she'd used them to create a trail, leading straight back to me. "You have until I finish this coffee to decide," she said, pulling a travel mug from her bag. "After that, I make the call, and your life becomes a legal nightmare you'll never recover from. Or you sign, walk away, and start over somewhere else. Your choice." She sat down, unscrewed the mug, took a long, deliberate sip, watching me, waiting. My hands were shaking when I picked up the pen. She watched me read through the document, 23 pages, every paragraph carefully constructed to destroy me if I refused, to silence me if I complied. My eyes moved across words that blurred together. Voluntary resignation, performance deficiencies, financial accountability, release of claims, confidentiality obligations, that last part especially. Confidentiality. Page 20, section 16. I read it 3 times, my mind racing while my hands pretended to shake from fear alone. The clause stated that the departing employee acknowledged full responsibility and confidentiality regarding all financial matters during their employment period. Standard corporate protection language. Except it was vague. Deliberately vague. The kind of vagueness that could be interpreted multiple ways depending on who was reading it and why. "Sometime today would be nice," Faye said. She'd finished half her coffee, making a show of checking her phone, letting me know time was running out. I picked up the pen, started signing. My name on page 2, date on page 5, initials on pages 7, 11, 15. Each signature felt like signing away pieces of myself, my career, my reputation, my ability to fight back. But when I reached page 20, section 16, I paused. Read it again. The financial accountability clause. It said, "The undersigned acknowledges financial accountability and confidentiality regarding all inventory and financial matters during the employment period specified herein." I initialed it. But before I moved to the next page, I made 2 tiny modifications. Crossed out "during" with a single line. Wrote "of" above it in small letters. Changed "employee" to "supervisor" in the same barely noticeable way. The clause now read that the supervisor acknowledges financial accountability of all inventory and financial matters during the specified period. Tiny changes. The kind of corrections people make when they notice errors in legal documents. The kind of thing that might go unnoticed if someone wasn't reading carefully. I initialed the change like you're supposed to when modifying contracts. Continued signing the remaining pages. Handed the entire stack back to her. Faye didn't read it. Why would she? She'd written it. She knew what it said. She'd already won. She collected the papers, glanced at the signatures to confirm I'd signed everywhere required, and smiled. "Smart choice. Clean out your personal items. Return your keys and access badge. You're finished here." She stood up, tucked the document into her bag, unlocked the door, and left without another word. Didn't even wait to watch me gather my things. That's how certain she was that she'd won. I stood alone in that back room for a long time after she left. My heart hammered against my ribs. My hands still shook, but now from adrenaline instead of fear, because I'd just done something either incredibly smart or catastrophically stupid, and I wouldn't know which until I followed through with the rest of what I was planning. Went to my locker, pulled out the small fireproof box I kept there. Inside were USB drives, 3 of them, each containing copies of everything I'd been documenting for the past 2 months. Every personal inventory count, every discrepancy, every date, time, item number, and dollar amount that didn't match between physical reality and official records. Screenshots of system entries showing my credentials being used at times when I had alibis proving I was somewhere else. Security footage requests I'd quietly submitted showing me off location when major inventory changes occurred. I'd been building a case without fully realizing that's what I was doing. Just keeping records, because records mattered, because numbers told stories if you tracked them carefully enough, because something felt wrong, and I needed to understand what. Now those records meant survival. Went home, didn't sleep, spent the entire night organizing everything into one comprehensive narrative. Created a timeline, hour by hour, day by day, showing exactly when discrepancies appeared, exactly what access logs showed, exactly where I actually was during those times. Cross-referenced my personal documentation against official inventory reports. Calculated total theft at $47,300 over 9 weeks. A attached the signed document as Exhibit A. The document where Faye had witnessed and verified a contract stating that the supervisor acknowledged financial accountability of all inventory and financial irregularities during the specified employment period. Her signature on the witness line. Her verification that the document was accurate and complete. She'd signed her own confession. She just didn't know it yet. Finished the report at 4 a.m. Sat staring at my laptop screen, reading through everything one final time. This was it. Once I sent this, there was no taking it back, no changing my mind. Either I had enough evidence to prove what I was claiming, or I was about to make everything infinitely worse for myself. Found the corporate compliance email on the company website. Not regional management, not district oversight, the actual audit division that handled fraud investigations. The people whose job was to find and prosecute exactly this kind of theft wrote a brief cover message. Former location manager. Discovered systematic inventory theft. Compiled comprehensive evidence. Available for formal statement. Attached detailed report and supporting documentation. Cursor hovered over the send button for probably 5 full minutes. Press send at 4:37 in the morning. Immediately wanted to vomit. What had I done? What if I was wrong? What if my evidence wasn't as solid as I thought? What if corporate decided I was the problem? Not Faye. What if her connections went higher than I realized, and this email just landed me in worse trouble? Spent the next hour and a half pacing my apartment, alternating between certainty that I'd done the right thing and terror that I'd just destroyed what little remained of my career. Phone rang at 6:14. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Let it ring 4 times before finally picking up. This is Sutton. Sutton. This is Grayson from Corporate Security and Compliance. I'm looking at a report you submitted approximately 90 minutes ago regarding financial irregularities at your former location. Do you have time to talk right now? My mouth went dry. Yes. First question. Are you safe currently? Are you in any immediate danger or under any duress? Strange question. No. I'm home. Alone. Nobody knows I contacted you. Good. Second question. Everything in this report, all this documentation, you compiled this yourself? Nobody helped you? Nobody directed you to create these records? I compiled all of it personally. Started tracking discrepancies about 2 months ago, when I noticed inventory numbers weren't matching physical counts. Everything in that report is from my direct observation and documentation. The document you attached, the departure agreement with the modified clause. Walk me through exactly what happened when you signed that. So I did. Told him everything. Faye's threats, the coercion, the way she'd forced me to sign under threat of false criminal accusations, how I'd made the tiny modifications before returning it, how she'd signed as witness without reading the changes, silence on the other end, long enough that I thought maybe the call had dropped. Sutton, I need you to understand something. What you've sent me is potentially evidence in a criminal case. I need to know if you're willing to provide a formal statement, willing to testify if this goes to prosecution, willing to have your name attached to this investigation. Yes. You're certain? Because once we move forward, this becomes official. Your former supervisor will know you're the one who reported this. There could be retaliation attempts. There could be legal pressure. This won't be easy. I'm certain. Okay. I need you to send me everything you have, every file, every screenshot, every piece of documentation. Can you do that within the next hour? I can do it in the next 10 minutes. Do that. I'm opening an official investigation as of this moment. Don't contact anyone from your former location. Don't discuss this with anyone. If your former supervisor attempts to contact you, don't respond. Let me know immediately if she tries. Understood? Understood. Sent him everything, every backup file, every piece of evidence I'd accumulated. Then sat on my couch watching the sun rise through my apartment window, wondering what happened next. Found out at 7:43 when my phone buzzed with a text from Leslie. She managed a location 2 territories over. We'd met at training seminars, stayed in casual contact. What happened? Corporate security just showed up at our morning meeting and pulled Faye out mid-sentence. She looked terrified. They took her to the back and she hasn't come out. What's going on? I didn't respond. Couldn't respond. Grayson had said not to discuss it with anyone, but my hands weren't shaking anymore. 8:15. Another text. This one from Marcus, assistant manager at a location in the Southern District. Heard district manager just got suspended, pending investigation, they said. Did you hear anything about this? I put my phone face down on the coffee table. Didn't look at it for the next 3 hours. When I finally checked again at 11:30, there were 17 messages. Other managers, former colleagues, people I'd worked with over the past 3 years, everyone asking the same questions. What happened? What investigation? Did I know anything? One message from an unknown number, left at 9:07. This is Faye. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're making a serious mistake. Call me immediately. I deleted it, didn't respond. Another message at 10:15 from the same number. Sutton, we can work this out. Whatever you told them, we can explain it. This doesn't have to destroy both of us. Call me. Deleted that too. Third message at 11:52. You have no idea what you've started. No idea who you're dealing with. This isn't over. That one I forwarded to Grayson. He called back within minutes. She contacted you? 3 times. Voice messages. Should I be worried? No. She's panicking. That's good for us. Don't respond. Don't engage. Let her panic. What happens now? Now? We build the case. We've frozen her access to all company systems, suspended her pending investigation. Same with the district manager. We're pulling every financial record from every location she's supervised for the past 5 years. Your documentation gave us probable cause to look deeper. What we're finding validates everything you reported. This is bigger than one location. She's been doing this systematically across multiple territories. 5 years. Multiple territories. How much had she stolen total? How many other managers had she forced out when they asked questions? The modified document, Grayson continued. Our legal team confirmed it's valid. She signed as witness, verifying the accuracy and completeness of the agreement. The modifications you made are clearly initialed, clearly part of the document she verified. Her signature authenticates a statement acknowledging supervisory responsibility for financial irregularities during the specified period. It's not a confession by itself, but combined with everything else you documented, it's powerful, corroborating evidence. So what she thought was my resignation is actually documentation of her acknowledging accountability for the exact theft we're investigating. She handed us evidence against herself because she was too arrogant to read what she was signing. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Bitter, exhausted laughter. She'd been so confident, so certain she'd won. Hadn't even bothered to verify what I'd actually signed because the idea that I might fight back hadn't occurred to her. What happens to me? I asked. What do you want to happen? I want my job back. That's not going to work. The location needs new management, and bringing you back there creates complications. But corporate is prepared to offer you the regional supervisor position once we complete the investigation. Faye's former role, overseeing multiple locations, significant raise, clean slate. Interested? Was I interested in taking the job of the person who'd tried to destroy me? The poetic justice appealed, but something about it felt wrong. Like accepting that position meant staying in a system that had enabled her for years, that had ignored warning signs, that had let her operate unchecked until someone documented everything carefully enough that they couldn't ignore it anymore. I need to think about it. Fair enough. Take your time. Investigation will take months anyway. We'll stay in touch. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, trying to process everything that had happened in the past 30 hours. Yesterday morning, I'd had a job. Yesterday evening, I'd been coerced into signing away my career under threat of false accusations. This morning, corporate security was building a criminal case against my former supervisor, and I was being offered her position. The justice of it felt surreal, like it couldn't possibly be real. Like any moment I'd wake up and discover this was wishful thinking. And actually, I was unemployed with a non-compete agreement, preventing me from working anywhere in my field. But it was real. The messages from other managers confirmed it. Faye was gone. District manager suspended. Investigation expanding. I'd won. Except it didn't feel like winning yet. It felt like waiting, like holding my breath for the other shoe to drop. That shoe dropped 3 days later. Criminal charges filed. Not just against Faye, against the district manager too. Conspiracy to commit fraud, embezzlement, multiple counts spanning multiple jurisdictions and multiple years. Total theft estimated at over $200,000 across 7 locations. 7 locations. 7 places where she'd done exactly what she'd done to me. How many other managers had she forced out? How many had signed her departure agreements and walked away quietly, not realizing they could have fought back? The modified document I'd signed became Exhibit A in the prosecution's case. Her signature verifying her accountability for financial irregularities during the specified period, combined with system access logs, inventory discrepancies, and the comprehensive documentation I'd provided. The case against her was apparently overwhelming. Her attorney called my phone twice. I didn't answer. Sent both calls to voicemail. Didn't listen to the messages. Forwarded them to Grayson without playing them. "She's trying to pressure you," he said. "Trying to find some way to discredit you before this goes to trial. Don't engage. Don't give her anything to use against you." Will there be a trial? Probably not. Her attorney knows the evidence. They'll negotiate a plea. But we need you ready to testify if it comes to that. I said I would be ready. Wasn't sure that was true. The idea of sitting in a witness stand, facing her across a courtroom, answering questions about everything that had happened, the thought made my chest tight. But I'd do it, because staying silent meant she'd do this to someone else eventually. Meant other people would lose their careers because she was skilled at manipulation and theft. Weeks passed, then months. The investigation expanded. More locations, more victims, more evidence of systematic theft, spanning nearly a decade across 3 different corporate divisions. Meanwhile, I'd started working again, not at my old company. One of their competitors had reached out after hearing through industry contacts what had happened, offered me a management position, better pay than before, better location. They'd been impressed, they said, by how I'd handled the situation, by my documentation, by my willingness to stand up against corruption even when it meant risking everything. The new job felt different, better, in ways I hadn't expected. My new employer actually listened when I made suggestions, actually credited me when initiatives succeeded, actually treated me like someone whose expertise mattered. Strange how quickly you normalize dysfunction until you experience what functional leadership actually looks like. But part of me stayed tense, waiting, because Faye's case was still pending, still moving through legal processes that felt glacially slow, still unresolved. 4 months after I'd sent that initial report to corporate compliance, Grayson called again. "We need to talk about the plea negotiations." My stomach dropped. "She's taking a plea." Her attorney approached us. "She's willing to plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for avoiding trial. Wants to negotiate restitution terms and sentencing recommendations." What does that mean for me? Means you probably won't have to testify. Means this ends faster. But it also means she gets a lighter sentence than if we took this to trial and won on all counts. How much lighter? Prosecution is considering 18 months incarceration plus 5 years probation plus full restitution. If we go to trial, we're pushing for 5 years minimum. But trials are unpredictable. Juries are unpredictable. The plea guarantees a conviction and guarantees restitution for all the victims. 18 months. For stealing over $200,000. For destroying multiple careers. For threatening me into signing away my livelihood. That's not enough, I know. But it's guaranteed, and the restitution includes damages for everyone she forced out, including you. We're talking significant financial compensation beyond just lost wages. I don't want her money. I want her to actually face consequences. She will. Felony conviction, prison time, permanent criminal record, loss of professional certifications. She'll never work in this industry again, never hold a supervisory position anywhere. This follows her forever, forever. That word carried weight. She'd spent a decade building a career, building a reputation, building connections that let her operate with impunity. All of it gone. Because she'd been too arrogant to read a document before signing it. Too confident that threatening me would be enough to make me disappear quietly. What about the district manager? Separate plea deal. He claims he didn't know the full extent of what she was doing. Says she manipulated him too. Prosecution isn't buying it. But proving his knowledge level is complicated. He's looking at probation, fines, and permanent removal from any corporate leadership role. He knew. He had to know. Probably. But probably isn't proof. We work with what we can prove. The injustice of it burned. But Grayson was right. Guaranteed consequences beat the risk of a trial that might fail. Fine. If she takes the plea, I won't fight it. There's one more thing. She wants to include a clause preventing you from discussing the case publicly. Wants to protect what's left of her reputation. Absolutely not. That's what I told them. Just wanted you to know, they asked. We hung up. I sat at my new office, staring at inventory spreadsheets that actually matched physical counts, working for people who actually valued honesty, and tried to feel satisfied that justice was happening. It didn't feel like enough, but maybe justice never did. The plea was finalized 3 weeks later. Faye pleaded guilty to multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement, 18 months incarceration, 5 years probation following release, full restitution to the company and to individual victims, permanent prohibition from holding fiduciary positions or supervisory roles over financial operations. The district manager got probation, community service, fines, and the same prohibition on future employment in corporate management. I received notification that I was entitled to restitution, lost wages, emotional distress damages, career interference compensation. The settlement amount, when it finally came through, was substantial. More than a year's salary. Money that represented acknowledgement, at least, that what had happened to me was wrong. But money wasn't what I'd wanted. I'd wanted her to understand what it felt like, to be powerless, to be threatened, to watch everything you'd built crumble because someone more powerful decided to destroy you. The day she was sentenced, I wasn't in the courtroom. Didn't want to be. Didn't want to see her face or hear whatever statement she made or watch her pretend to be remorseful. Leslie texted me, though. She'd gone. Wanted to see it happen. She cried during the sentencing. Said she made mistakes but never intended to hurt anyone. Said she was sorry. Judge didn't seem impressed. Told her she'd systematically stolen from her employer and destroyed careers to cover her tracks. Said the evidence showed calculated deception over many years. 18 months. She starts serving next month. Made mistakes. Never intended to hurt anyone. The language of someone who still didn't believe they'd done anything truly wrong. Who thought of theft and coercion and career destruction as mere mistakes. Oopsies. Didn't mean to. I deleted the message. Went back to work. Tried not to think about her at all. But 3 months later, I did think about her. Because I received a letter, forwarded through corporate legal to protect my actual address. Handwritten, 3 pages. I almost threw it away without reading it. Almost. But curiosity won. Sutton, I'm writing this from where I'm currently residing, serving the sentence you helped arrange for me. I've had a lot of time to think about what happened, about the choices I made, about how things ended between us. I want you to understand something. I never set out to hurt you specifically. You were good at your job. I respected that. But you were also naive. You didn't understand how the business really works, how people at my level have to operate to survive in corporate environments. The credit taking, the strategic positioning, the protecting of your own interests. That's not corruption. That's reality. The inventory discrepancies. I was planning to replace everything. It was temporary borrowing. I had debts, personal situations you knew nothing about. I intended to fix it all before anyone noticed. You forced my hand by going above my head. You made me act defensively. If you'd just trusted me, if you'd just been patient and let me handle things my way, none of this would have happened. We'd both still have our careers. I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be wherever you are now. Probably still looking over your shoulder, wondering if I'll retaliate somehow. But I won't retaliate. I'm not that person. I'm writing because I think you deserve to know that I don't blame you. You did what you thought was right. You were wrong, and your actions destroyed my life. But I understand. You believed you were justified. I hope you can sleep at night knowing what you did to me, what you took from me, my career, my freedom, my future, over what amounts to a bookkeeping disagreement and a personality conflict. When I'm released, I'll have nothing. No job prospects, no professional reputation, a criminal record that follows me everywhere. You did that. You chose that. I hope it was worth it. I forgive you, even though you probably don't think you need forgiveness. Maybe someday you'll realize what you actually did. Faye, I read it twice, then a third time, looking for any sign of actual remorse, any acknowledgement of real wrongdoing, any understanding of what she'd actually done. Found none. Just self-pity, just justification, just the conviction that she was the victim here, that I'd ruined her life over a bookkeeping disagreement, that her theft was temporary borrowing, that threatening to destroy my career was just acting defensively. She still didn't understand. Maybe she never would. I almost wrote back. almost crafted a detailed response explaining exactly what she'd done, exactly how her actions had harmed not just me, but 7 other managers whose careers she'd destroyed. Exactly how her temporary borrowing was actually systematic theft over nearly a decade. Exactly how her threats and coercion and manipulation were criminal acts, not reasonable business practices. Almost. But what would be the point? She'd spent months in prison, and it hadn't changed how she saw herself. Nothing I wrote would change that either. Instead, I filed the letter, kept it as documentation, just in case, then moved on with my life. Moved on successfully. As it turned out, my new company promoted me within a year, regional operations director, overseeing multiple locations across 2 states. Exactly the kind of position Faye had wanted to trap me out of with her non-compete agreement. The kind of position I'd have never gotten if I'd signed her document without modification. If I'd walked away quietly like she'd demanded. Hired other managers who'd been casualties of similar situations. People who'd been forced out of previous positions for asking inconvenient questions. People who'd documented problems and been punished for it. Built a team of people who understood that doing things correctly mattered more than protecting people who did things incorrectly. We became the highest performing region in the company within 18 months. Not because we were extraordinary, because we were honest, because we tracked things accurately, because we didn't tolerate theft or manipulation or leaders who took credit for other people's work. Simple things, but apparently revolutionary in an industry where Faye had operated unchecked for a decade. 15 months after her sentencing, she was released. Served her time, minus a few months for good behavior. I knew because Leslie told me. She'd kept tabs on the case, fascinated by how it had all unfolded. She's working at a warehouse now, loading trucks. Apparently couldn't find anything else with her record. Divorced too. Her husband left while she was inside. Heard she's living with her sister, trying to figure out what to do with the rest of her life. Loading trucks. The woman who'd threatened to end my career permanently. Who'd stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars. Who'd forced multiple people out of their jobs to protect herself. Now loading trucks at a warehouse because no company would trust her with anything more. I should have felt satisfaction. Should have felt vindicated. Should have felt that finally, she was experiencing consequences proportional to her actions. Instead, I felt tired. Just tired. Because none of this had needed to happen. She could have been a legitimate supervisor. Could have built a real career on actual merit. Could have supported her team instead of exploiting them. Could have addressed her financial problems legally instead of stealing. She'd chosen differently. Chosen manipulation. Chosen theft. Chosen to threaten and coerce anyone who questioned her. And those choices had consequences. The modified document sat in my files. Exhibit A, the piece of paper that had changed everything. Her signature verifying her own accountability for the theft she'd been committing. The arrogance of not reading what she was signing. The certainty that I was too powerless to fight back. That single document, combined with months of careful record-keeping, combined with my refusal to disappear quietly, combined with her own systematic theft over nearly a decade. All of it together had been enough to dismantle everything she'd built. Not because I was special, not because I was brave, because I'd kept records, because I'd modified 2 words before signing, because I'd sent evidence to people who actually investigated instead of people who protected her. Small actions, massive consequences. Sometimes I wondered if I'd done the right thing. If turning her in had been justice or just revenge dressed up as righteousness. If the outcome was proportional to the crime. If she deserved to lose absolutely everything. Then I remembered the text messages from other managers. The other locations she'd supervised. The pattern spanning years. The 7 other people whose careers she'd destroyed before me. The theft. The manipulation. The absolute confidence that she could continue operating indefinitely because she'd found a system that worked and people who protected her. I hadn't destroyed her career. She'd destroyed her own career. I just documented it carefully enough that it couldn't be ignored anymore. That's what I told myself, anyway. On the days when doubt crept in, when I wondered if I could have handled things differently, if there was a version of events where I'd confronted her differently, or reported it differently, or given her a chance to fix things before escalating. But I'd tried that. I'd gone to her first, asked about the discrepancies, given her every opportunity to explain or correct the problems. She'd responded with threats, with coercion, with an ultimatum designed to erase me and silence any questions permanently. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. The difference was that mine were documented, defensible, and legal. 5 years later, I'm still working in retail management, still building teams, still implementing systems that prevent exactly the kind of theft Faye had perfected, still hiring people who've been casualties of corporate corruption, giving them second chances in environments where honesty is valued instead of punished. The industry talks about the case occasionally. Cautionary tale. Example of what happens when corporate oversight fails. Reminder that internal controls matter. They don't usually mention my name, which is fine. I don't need recognition. Just want to do my job without wondering if someone's stealing or whether asking questions will destroy my career. Faye never contacted me again after that letter. Don't know where she ended up. Don't particularly care. Her consequences are hers to manage. I have my own life to focus on. But I kept that modified document. Framed it, actually. Hangs in my home office. Reminder that reading carefully matters. That small actions can have enormous impacts. That powerful people aren't untouchable if you document everything meticulously and refuse to be silenced. Execute this departure agreement, or I'll burn everything you've built to ash. That's what she said. That's how this started. With a threat, with coercion, with absolute confidence that she held all the power, and I had none. She was wrong. Power isn't about position. It's about preparation, about documentation, about understanding systems well enough to know when they're being manipulated, about reading contracts carefully before signing them, about making tiny modifications that transform weapons aimed at you into weapons aimed at the person holding them. 2 words. During changed to of. Employee changed to supervisor. 2 tiny modifications that converted my forced resignation into her signed confession. That's what took her down. Not courage, not heroism, just attention to detail and the willingness to fight back with the only tools I had available. Sometimes people ask me for advice. Other managers who are facing similar situations, being blamed for things they didn't do, being forced out for asking questions, being threatened into silence. I tell them what worked for me. Document everything. Keep personal records separate from company systems. Back up everything multiple times. If someone tries to force you into signing something, read every word before signing. If you sign under coercion, document how you were coerced. Report to the right people, not just people in the immediate chain of command. Don't assume someone powerful is untouchable. Build your case carefully and completely before submitting it. Most importantly, trust that numbers don't lie. If the accounting doesn't match reality, someone is manipulating it. If you're being pressured to ignore discrepancies, someone is benefiting from those discrepancies. If asking questions gets you threatened instead of answered, you've found something worth investigating. Faye taught me that. Taught me that corruption relies on people staying silent, relies on people being too afraid to document problems, relies on people accepting that powerful individuals are simply untouchable. They're not. They just seem that way until someone keeps careful records and refuses to disappear quietly. Thank you for staying with me through this entire story. If any part of what I experienced resonates with you, if you've ever faced something similar or know someone who has, I hope this shows that fighting back is possible, that documentation matters, that careful attention to detail can protect you when nothing else will. Drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about standing up against people who think they're too powerful to face consequences. Your support and engagement mean everything.